Today, December 8th, 2025. Good to have you here. Sign in on the chat if you can so I know you're there. I'm sure you can hear me okay. Just want to make sure. Yeah, I'm all chatted up here. So my name's Eric, executive founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm that represents seniors and disabled persons in order to stop debt collector harassment. And we have YouTube live videos every Monday through Thursday. And I want to welcome you to our YouTube live here. There we go. Good. Thank you. We got some interesting things to talk about today. Person contacts us from Pennsylvania and they say, I have an overwhelming credit card debt that I must use my savings just to pay the monthly charges. I am on Social Security and VA disability. No. If you're on VA disability and Social Security, you don't want to use your savings to keep up with your credit card debt. That's, your only income is Social Security and your VA benefit, or your Social Security and your VA disability. And then your savings is kind of like your nest egg, your little extra money you have. Once that it's gone, it can't be replaced, or it's extremely difficult to replace it. So no, what helps is we're a national law firm and we represent seniors to stop collectors from harassing them. And our most important message to seniors is that your Social Security, your pension, your disability, your VA benefits, all forms of retirement income virtually are protected by federal and state laws. It can't be taken from you. So if you choose not to pay your debt, even if these creditors sue you, they can't take your money, okay? And so we want you to be able to preserve what money you do have for your needs in the future. And, money purely in a savings account could theoretically be at risk if the money didn't come from a protected source. And therefore, but it'd only be at risk if someone sued you and got a judgment. And so there's ways to use that money or put it in a protected place that it wouldn't be taken. Or for example, let's say you had $10,000 in money in a savings account that wasn't technically protected money. It wasn't Social Security. But let's say you got $2,000 in Social Security each month. Well, if you took the $2,000 in Social Security and just let it accumulate there, in 5 months you'd have $10,000. And if you lived off the $10,000 in savings, now all of a sudden this money that wasn't exempt, that was in your savings account, it's been spent. It supported you, and you got $10,000 in your bank account that came from Social Security, and that's protected. Okay. Now, a lot of times in Helps we'll talk about how money is protected in your bank account. And back in 2012, Congress put in a rule in effect that tells banks that they're to protect twice the amount of your federal benefit in your bank account, regardless of what monies are in there, twice the amount you get each month. So if you got $2,000 in Social Security, $4,000 is protected automatically. But what if you had saved more than that and you had, like in my example, you had $10,000 in there, you'd have $6,000 over the $4,000 that was automatically protected. If someone sued you and got a judgment and they garnished, could you lose that money? Well, they could hold it up, but you could file a challenge to garnishment or claim exemption, be able to show the court that the money came from Social Security. The court would release those funds. So you're important for you to understand how your income is protected and that it's available for your needs. You don't need to use it to pay debt. You simply can't afford to pay. So I want to welcome you. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat. We'll answer them. John asked, we're on Social Security and pension. Can creditors put a lien on our personal property? No, not really. I mean, if someone sues you and gets a judgment, in most states, that could be a lien on real property. It means like a home on land, dirt, okay? But judgments normally are not liens on your personal property that you need to worry about, okay? Now, every state has exemption laws that protect, theoretically, if someone were to sue you and get a judgment, every state has, virtually every state has exemption laws which protect a certain amount of equity in different types of property, like so much equity in a home, so much equity in a car. And the question is, what about household goods, or what about a TV or computer or bedroom set? Or, you know, it's under state law. But even if you, or let's say you had a valuable antique collection, so okay, uh, it is possible you could have assets over and above their state exemption where you live. But if some creditor were to sue you and get a judgment, are those assets at risk? Well, probably not. Normally, that would not be the case. And when I say normally, I say that speaking as an attorney of 46 years, 30 to 40,000 bankruptcies, and been in helps for the last, 12, 14 years. Um, no, it's not the practice of unsecured or of judgment creditors, consumer judgment creditors, to go after a person's personal property, even if you happen to have equity over and above the exemption for the state. Why is that? It's just too complicated, and no guarantee they're going to get enough money. They just don't do it as a practical matter. They pretty much limit it to, um, trying to garnish a bank account. But like I explained, as long as you keep the balance in your bank account less than twice the amount of your federal benefit, your bank account's going to be protected. Okay. Turbo asks, once there's a judgment, they try to collect. Will they keep trying to collect? That's not our experience. I mean, they try to collect by filing a writ of garnishment. Maybe if they know where you bank, that would not necessarily going to happen. As long as you keep it less than twice the amount, the bank's going to see that and they're going to reject it. I talked to a lady today who said her bank told her, she's from Tennessee, someone at the bank told her, well, if there's money in your bank account came from another source and we get a writ of garnishment, we're going to have to use that money to pay this debt. And I told her, well, the person you talked to at the bank, that wasn't their department. They didn't know what they were talking about. There is a department in the bank that understands the law. And when they get a writ of garnishment on someone, they're going to take it and they're going to look at where the money came from. If it came from a federal source, they times that times two and protect that sum of money. I told her she didn't have anything to worry about. I'm sure she did it. Okay. 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 Let's see. We've got a bunch of other stuff to talk about here. I can get to it here. Here we go. Someone writes in from Illinois and they say, hello, I've seen your YouTube commercial. We don't have commercial, we have videos. Okay. My situation is related to debt. I owe $49,000 in unsecured debt. I voluntarily gave back my car, so I'm $15,000 negative. In other words, it turned out he owed more on the car than what the car was going to sell for, and so he's going to owe $15,000, and they call it a deficiency. Okay. The unsecured debt is currently 3 years old, and the car I gave back about a year ago in March. I have not been contacted yet by the car dealer. Here and there for the credit cards. Yeah, they may never decide to sue you. They could for that deficiency amount. And he goes on to say, my income is VA disability and Social Security disability. I have a home with $90,000 worth of equity. I can't access it because I'm not credit worthy. My home is in a living trust for my son. Spoke to a bankruptcy attorney. He stated I should file Chapter 13 because I have too much equity in the home. The payment would be $1,000 per month for 60 months. I cannot afford that. He kept on telling me the creditors could put a lien on my home and sell it Your video was helpful. I was thinking, if I'm sued and the lien is placed on the house, can my son use the life insurance to pay it, or should I not be concerned? Well, okay. Let's talk about that for a second. See, every state has an exemption, protect a certain amount of equity in a home. And this guy is in Illinois. And I think I know what the exemption is for Illinois, and it's not that much. That's right. I was right. $15,000 for a single filer. Okay. So this guy, I'll go over this. This guy, okay, he's got $90,000 worth of equity. So let's say he owed, the home is worth 200,000. Let's say he owes 100. Let's say the home is worth 200,000, and he owes 110,000. Okay, you take 200,000 what the home is worth minus 110,000 what he owes on the mortgage. The difference is 90,000. That's his equity. Now, actually, it's probably less than that because you got to count in the cost of sale and that kind of stuff. But let's say it's 90,000. Well, the homestead exemption for Illinois is for a single person is $15,000. That is one of the smaller exemptions for states. A lot of states have exemptions far more than that. Some states don't even protect all the equity you have in a home. But 15,000 is pretty low in Illinois. So he goes to an attorney, and let's say he has $50,000 worth of debt. And the attorney says, well, gee, if your home's worth 190 and you owe 100 or 200 and you owe 110, you got 90,000 equity. Your homestead is 15,000. That means you've got $75,000 worth of equity in the home, and you have $50,000 worth of debt. If you file regular bankruptcy, a trustee could take your home and sell it. But therefore, your only bankruptcy you can file is a Chapter 13, which would provide that you have to pay back the creditors the money that you owe them, which is $50,000. The longest you can be in a Chapter 13 for is 60 months, 5 years. With the attorney fees and stuff, that might be a payment of $1,000 a month. And that's why this attorney told me that he'd have to pay for $1,000 for 60 months. He can't afford it. Well, of course he can't afford it. His only income is a little bit of disability. So, filing a bankruptcy would be a mistake, Now, one thing, if you did file a Chapter 13 and you finally realized it was a mistake, you could dismiss it. Chapter 13 is voluntary. But he's telling them the creditors are going to, now if someone sued him and got a judgment, he says they put a lien on the home. Well, yeah, they could put a lien and sell it. They're not going to sell it. Now, legally, could they? I suppose you could say that, but we just don't see consumer judgment creditors trying to foreclosure on homes if you have equity over and above the exemption. Now, he says he's got some type of living trust for his son. Well, that's kind of like it's voluntary. I mean, he could undo that if he wanted to. Therefore, it's may save probate in the end, but it doesn't protect the home from creditors. Theoretically, if he added his son's name to the home as a joint owner with survivorship rights, then that means he owns it jointly with the son. When he passes away, the property would go to the son. And even if someone sued him and got a judgment in the end, when he dies, the judgment would go away. The property would automatically go to the son. So there's a better idea than filing bankruptcy for this guy. So you wouldn't need to use the life insurance to pay the debt. I mean, you would call and talk to us with something like this. We'd give you some information that might be helpful for you. Okay? That's what we do. Okay. Person writes in, I'm not sure from where, he says, I have 3 credit cards that I cannot pay. I retired a year ago and I've been depleting my savings trying to keep up. Well, we already talked about that. You don't need to deplete your savings to keep up on that. Person contacts us from Nevada. This is some notes from one of our paralegals. It says his income changed drastically this year. His wife passed away. He used to have a business, but he does not anymore. He lost all of his savings. Apparently the business went under. He only has Social Security. He has SBA loans. That's Small Business Administration loans. We emailed him what we did. He called back, and then he's got unsecured debts as well, credit cards and medical bills. This guy from Nevada. He rents, he owns a car outright, and he got sued by Chase. Now, what can he do? It's a good one. Okay, so your only income is Social Security. It's protected. No one can take it. Okay? Now, the only thing that concerned me about this guy is he's got some business debt that's owed to the SBA, the Small Business Administration. And technically, if you owe taxes and you're lower or modest income like Social Security, should be able to get on what's called currently not collectible status, where you don't have to pay the taxes. Okay? Pretty much a no-brainer, and it's automatically you could do that. Now, if you had credit card debt or other debt, his Social Security is going to be protected. Even if they sue him and get a judgment, twice the amount of Social Security he gets is going to be protected. No one can touch it. But what about the SBA? Okay. Well, in 1996, Congress passed a law, and what it did is it gave permission for certain federal agencies, federal debt, to ask the Social Security to offset 15% of Social Security to pay debt. And federal agencies can do that. IRS cannot do that. IRS is a program set up for you to get on what's called currently not collectible status. If your income is low, like approximately $2,500 or less if you're single, $3,500 or less if you're married, or even a little bit more. But an SBA loan, technically the SBA could send a letter to the IRS saying that they want to offset 15% of his Social Security. Now, they may not do that. They're not terribly active on doing that. They don't have to sue you. They can just do that. But if they were to do that, we could tell this guy he could file a bankruptcy and wipe out the SBA loan. And that way they wouldn't be able to take 15% of his Social Security. But, if you do have an SBA loan, and not very many of you do, but if you did, it doesn't mean automatically they're going to try to offset 15% of your Social Security. But if they were, normally they would do that after they give you like 60 days, but it'd give you time to, talk to us. We'd be able to tell you what your options are. Okay. This person writes in and says, I watched some videos that said if I default on my private student loan, see, there's two types of student loans: public student loans and private student loans. Private student loans are normally, sometimes trucking schools would be a private student loan. Some tech schools would be private, and then, higher education, sometimes colleges are normally funded by public student loans, federal student loans. He says, if I default on my private student loan, creditors or bill collectors cannot garnish, seize, or impair income from my Social Security and pension accounts. He's right. They can't. Even public student loans will never touch a pension. The only thing they would do is they have in the past been able to offset 15% of Social Security for a student loan, but they're presently not doing that. Now, it may start up again, but for about the last 6 years, they haven't been doing that. Almost 7 years, since 2018. Okay. He says, after paying over $60,000 on a $10,000 loan, wow, I'm ready to stop making those payments. I want to be protected and do things as efficiently as possible. Can you help? What steps are involved? How much do you charge? Okay, well, we're going to talk to this guy and You don't need to take any steps. You just stop paying the private student loan. They're like a regular creditor. They can't touch your Social Security. They can't touch your pension. Are they going to sue you? Yeah, they could. I don't see private student loans suing that often. Um, they can't offset your Social Security. So, no, you could just stop paying it. So, you understand what HELPS does. We represent seniors and disabled persons who owe debt to stop collectors from harassing them. And we do that under a law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And one provision of that law provides if you're represented by an attorney, collectors have to call and leave you alone. And that's what we do. When people find out about us, they call us on the phone, we ask them questions. If they decide to enroll, we can click a button, enroll them immediately over the phone, and then they give us the creditors they owe money to. We send a cease and desist letter out, and so they leave you alone. We represent you ongoing so you don't have to deal with collectors again. Okay? Okay. Okay. So this person contacts us from Texas. They get Social Security. The husband is 74, the wife is 76. It says just stop making payments on an RV loan, and it got repossessed 3 weeks ago, and they were worried. They don't need to worry. Why is that? Well, um, your retirement income, no matter where you live in whatever state, is protected from debt collectors. Now, if you have an RV that you can't afford and it goes back, um, I tell people if you've been making payments on it, the time to let them know that you're not going to make the payment is to stop making the payment and wait for them to call you. If you call them out of the blue, the person you talk to isn't going to know what to do because you're current on the payment. You got to really be behind. So if you're behind and then the person that calls you about the missed payment, you tell them you can't afford it anymore, and then they're going to pick it up. He'll know what to do. He or she will know what to do. Um, I tell people sometime if it's parked in a place where there's a storage fee and you can't afford it, don't pay the storage fee. The lender will have to deal that up. You don't have to deliver it to the lender. They're going to have to come by and pick it up from you. Okay? I mean, if you are going to deliver it, which you don't have to do, make sure that it's insured. You don't want to be caught driving uninsured. Now, they're going to eventually sell the RV. Sometimes it takes RVs lenders a little bit longer to repossess an RV than like a car, for example. Maybe because it might be a trailer, they have to arrange for someone to pull it, or it might be a camper, or it's just a bigger vehicle, more complicated. So sometimes it takes longer for it to get repossessed. But they're gonna get it, and it's likely gonna sell it for less than what you owe. There are exceptions, but they're pretty rare. They sell it for more than what you owe, you get a check in the mail. No, you don't need to. They're going to sell for less than what's owed, and they'll eventually get a letter called a notice of deficiency telling you how much you owe. Now, if you're a member of HELPS, you're going to get us that letter. We're going to send a letter to that lender letting them know that you're not going to pay the debt. They can't collect from you. You don't need to worry. Okay? Okay. Wait a minute here. Okay, sorry for the delay here. Okay, I almost got it here. Person contacts us from Washington. Yeah, I remember reading this earlier. Okay, he says, that's what the paralegal wrote and enrolled this guy. He says, contacted, completed intake, read what we did, quoted in the fees, and he enrolled. And right after I read what we did, he said, quote, I just lost my headache. Yeah, I think does resolve a lot of headaches for people. A very nice man that was so happy to have found helps. And it goes on to say he survives on Social Security, SSI, and a small non-federal pension. He banks with the credit union, and his income is directly deposited into his checking account. Yeah, we tell our clients, if you're at risk of being sued, you just want one bank account, and that's the account to which your Social Security is deposited. That's to be only, and have all your monies go into that account. Why is that? Well, remember, twice the amount of your federal benefit, like Social Security, deposited into a bank account is protected automatically from garnishment by your bank, even if there happen to be other monies in there. We send him emails on how his accounts are protected. We send him an email about YouTube Live. Maybe this person's listening today. He rents as a vehicle with an exemption within the exemption limits for the state. Really wouldn't matter. It's not generally the practice of unsecured creditors who get judgments to go after vehicles if you have equity over and above the exemption. And he was going to be fine. He's going to be okay. Nothing to worry about. So, as I talk and you listen to me explain these things, if this is your situation, don't hesitate to contact us. We don't turn anyone away that needs our help. And you'll be like this guy. If you've got a headache about these things, you're going to lose your headache because you're going to feel a lot better after you talk to us. So this person contacted us and we read what we did. They apparently saw some YouTube videos and looked at our website. And it says, very nice Southern man. I don't know what that means. They had an accent, I guess. And he was being sued by Synchrony Bank. It says, I found the case online, but no additional. See, almost every county now publishes lawsuits. And if you get on the internet, you can find out if you've been sued and who sued you and the case number. Not everywhere, but probably 95% of the counties are linked up, and it's free. Okay. And we were trying to help him find this information, but it looks like we got the case number down, but we didn't get the attorney's name and address. It says he has one bank checking account where his Social Security is directly deposited. He's got an old car that's free and clear. He has about $10,000 in credit card debt. His wife passed away a few years ago, and that's what caused this problem. When she died, her income went away, and he's raising 2 grandkids now. We told him he's going to be okay. It looks like he's enrolled in help. So we're going to send a letter to the attorney that sued him, let him know that his income is protected, that he can't pay the debt. Oh, also discussed that he will cancel with the debt relief company, although they are the ones that referred him here. Well, that's kind of good news that they referred him to us. Most most seniors, if they talk to a debt management or debt consolidation company or debt settlement company, um, aren't told that their income is protected. Instead, they're signed up, sometimes making payments that put them in utter poverty. But for some reason, this debt settlement company, the person they talked to, uh, when he explained to him the problems he was having, they referred him to helps. Maybe the individual working for the debt management company knew about us. But with few exceptions, debt settlement companies aren't going to tell people about us. So if you're enrolled with a debt settlement or debt management company and you were never told that your income was protected, uh, you weren't given complete information. If they would have told you that, you would have realized you didn't need their help. They wouldn't be making money off you. Can you sue a bank in federal court for not protecting 2 months of protected income? I think you can sue anyone for anything in this country, right? Whether it makes sense to do it or not, no. I mean, they're going to do it. Okay. Uh, I'll just give you my experience. Um, when this rule went into effect in 2012, and that's about the year that helps got started, and we knew about this rule right from the beginning. It took about a year for the banks to get on board, but it took about 7, 8, 9. It took a long time for the credit unions to get on board. And we've got a couple really detailed letters that we can send to a bank or a credit union if they were not follow the law, that details the law and explains to them what the law is. But we don't have a problem anymore. It's been years since we've had a problem with one of the banks or credit unions incorrectly offsetting money on a garnishment. But we've got a couple of emails that we've developed over the years that lay out the law clearly. Remember one time we had a problem with a credit union on the West Coast. I think it was in Brookings, Oregon. And but they had branches. And I told them, you guys got to give this guy his money back. I talked to the credit union manager. Well, she was kind of frustrated. And finally, she got me through to the attorney in Eugene, Oregon, that represented the credit union. And I remember talking to the guy. He called me on the phone and said, Eric, you're right. I'm sorry. I told him to get the money back to your client. And I said, I know. We're not going to do anything, but you need to educate your credit union on this. So this doesn't happen again. I tell them, I worry about other people, seniors, having this happen and they don't know any better and they let your credit union do this. And he says, I will. So no, you don't need to worry about them taking your money. If it were ever happen, contact us. We know what to do. Does a help fee reduce after 2 years? Yeah. Our fees are based on your household income. Give an example. The fee could be like $20 for 24 months, then $10 for 24 months. It gets cut in half after 24 months. And then after the second 24 months, it's free, but we represent you ongoing for the rest of your life. Now, reason it goes down because there's fewer problems. But you could be sued 3 or 4 years from now. You might incur a new debt or 5 years from now. We're still going to represent you. Or they may still assign it to a new debt collector. But the reason the fee goes down is there's fewer problems. Okay? Can a person have Social Security going into one account and VA going in another account and they both still protected? Yeah, you can do that. So in other words, let's say you got a 1,500 in Social Security, 3,000 is protected. You got 1,000 in VA benefits that went deposit in another bank. Well, it's still a federal benefit. If you got sued and garnished, one account would be protected for twice the amount of Social Security, the other one twice the amount of federal benefits. But if you had one bank account to which both came, then you could have more money in that one bank account. But you could have it in two separate accounts. But if you happen to have more than that in there, it's still protected, just not protected automatically. Is there a new law on medical bills non-payment? Not that I'm aware of. There was talk about medical bills not being reported on your credit report, but that hasn't come into effect yet, and it may not. Okay. I don't see a problem with medical bills getting reported on credit reports too often. If it were, it would probably be once it's turned over for collections. I don't see doctors' offices or hospitals reporting on credit. They could, and probably happens. We just don't, monitor that closely, but I would notice it if it did happen. Okay. Person contacts us from Georgia. He says, I need to know if my income is protected. I draw Social Security each month, and I also am participant in a structured family program through Medicaid. I am 24 hours, 7 day a week living caretaker for a family member. I receive a weekly tax-free check. If the income is protected, I would like to use your services. I'm going to stop paying my debt, which is all unsecured. It's about $42,000. Yeah, I may have talked about this before. I can't remember. I've read it before, or the problem has come up. Yeah, the state is going to protect that money from garnishment. If the state allowed that to be garnished, your money for taking care of your relative, then you wouldn't have any reason to take care of your relative, and the state would have to incur the debt and it'd be a problem. So state law normally would protect that. Okay. And of course, your Social Security is protected. Now, as long as that state money that you get for taking care of your relative is deposited in your bank account, and you keep the bank account less than twice the amount that you get in Social Security each month, then it's going to be protected, that bank account. Another person from Georgia contacts us, and this is all it says. It says, I'm at a point that I don't know what to do. Wondering if bankruptcy isn't the answer. Hopefully you can help. Yeah, we'll talk to you. Like I said, I probably filed 30 or 40,000 bankruptcies before HELPS was started. I started HELPS because I was talking to too many seniors, and they didn't need to file bankruptcy. They couldn't afford to file bankruptcy. Or if they filed bankruptcy, they were going to be getting into a big mess. But if they didn't pay their debt, creditors could call them on the phone and make their lives miserable. So I knew about the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and so HELPS was started so that we could represent seniors as their attorney to intercept these collector calls and collector letters. And so that's what we do. Now, on rare occasion, a bankruptcy could make sense for a senior. And if that happens, we're happy to refer them to a local attorney to file the bankruptcy or tell them what to do. But it's not that often that a senior needs to file bankruptcy. Person writes in, says, I'm disabled, but I don't know if I'm a senior. I'm 62. Do I qualify as a senior? I've been sued and I'm scared. Okay, the laws that we talk about here on HELPS, the laws that protect your income and your assets and your bank account, your pension, your Social Security, it doesn't matter what age you are. It's just dependent on what the income is. It's protected. We've got clients in their 40s and 50s or even younger that may get Social Security disability. It's Social Security. They're not a senior. They're obviously, their income's protected. So HELP stands for Help Eliminate Legal Problems for Seniors and Disabled. Okay? We left out the and disabled part on HELPS. So it helps eliminate legal problems for seniors, helps and disabled. So this guy writes in, I've been contacted by someone who identifies as a mediator for a finance company where I borrowed money 3+ years ago. I don't know if it's a mediator. I think he means he's a debt collector. Maybe he's using mediator, so maybe it makes the person thinks that he has to deal with this person. Anyway, after making a few payments, I fell on hard times and couldn't keep paying. Apparently, the mediator talked him into making some payments, and now he finds he can't afford them anymore. This person has scared me into thinking this company will file with the court that I obtained the loan fraudulently, which I did not, and my income could face garnishment. So this so-called mediator is also a scammer and breaking the law by threatening him like this. Okay. Unless I make arrangements to pay an outrageous payments for 6 months. I made one and was involved in a car accident. I'm dealing with that and find I'm not able to make steep payments. I know I should call him back, but it's overwhelming. I don't know what to say. Please help. Please help is in all caps with an exclamation mark. Well, that's what we're here for. Helps is here to help. Yeah, you don't need to call the guy back. He, he's trying to scam you. He's intimidating you. And any creditor, any collector threatening you like this is breaking the law. They cannot legally do that by saying that you obtained the loan fraudulently. They're just, yeah. And you can always call us with your questions. If you want our help, you can enroll in helps, but we always talk to you. Some people call us 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times before they decide to enroll, maybe even more. Okay. Is help still on Facebook? I think we're on Facebook. Oh, we need to maybe assign someone to, we used to be pretty active on Facebook. We need to get more active on Facebook. Pretty much concentrate on YouTube. Okay. Person contacts us from Illinois. Oh man. Says my wife and I are currently homeless and living in a hotel room. She's on disability and I was working, but just got discharged from hospital after a mild stroke. I'm unable to work for a while and we have nowhere to go. So what can helps do? I can't put more money in your pocket, but what I can do is tell you where you don't have to spend your money. Okay? I can do that. I can tell you maybe where to go to get help. Okay? Really sorry for your hardship, but call and talk to us. We'd be glad that, we want to be able to, we're here to help people. A guy calls us from Kentucky. Um, I just got kicked out of an efficiency apartment because I couldn't pay rent up front anymore. It was $1,200 a month and I only make $1,500. I got a few food stamps finally, so I was trying to catch rent up. Landlord wanted everything. I was behind in my whole check, which I couldn't do. I need help finding a place I can afford $700 a month. I need new furniture because there were bed bugs. My mother cares for my nieces, and my father died in 2023. They're living in a 2-bedroom trailer, and there's no room for me. Um, you know, we do have an email that talks about Section 8 housing for people. Okay. There's different words for Section 8, but essentially government supported housing where they pay part of your rent. Usually about a quarter to a third of your income goes to pay the rent. And we've got emails that will show, where it's available. Some places in the country, it's harder to get on subsidized Section 8 housing than others. A lot of places you might have to wait a couple years or longer even. I tell some people, if you don't need it now, consider signing up for it, but maybe when a spouse passes away and that person's your income goes down, you'll be glad you signed up when you did. If you sign up for it and you're offered it, you don't have to accept it. They can roll it over. You can also sign up for Section 8 housing in different parts of the country. And, housing might be more available in certain parts of the country than other parts of the country. You actually can apply in different parts of the country because a lot of times it might make sense for a family to move closer to a family member. But we'll give you that. We can give this person that information. Hopefully that will give them some ideas on what to do. Person contacts us from Michigan. Husband and wife, and together they make $4,500 in Social Security. Says, my husband would very much like to speak with Mr. Olsen in regards to our debt and having been served a second summons. In the meantime, we will try reaching you by phone. And then looks like last week, it looked like they've been listening to our videos because it says they exited from Beyond Finance yesterday. They were paying $600 twice a month, which they didn't need to do because their income was Social Security and pension. It was protected income. They've been listening to me and they knew that and they stopped paying that. They were behind on their mortgage and trying to pay their debt down. They got behind on their mortgage payment. It says both receive Social Security and are jointly named on an annuity. The annuity should be protected under state law. Now, state laws vary on protections of annuity, but I've never seen a person who had an annuity ever had it garnished. Okay? They have a joint bank account, buying a home in both of their names. They own one car and they're leasing another. Yeah, if you're leasing a car and you're making a high car payment, you could let a car go back, and that you're going to have that money available to you. Maybe you decide you can live off of one car. Okay. Debt was over $100,000 when they entered into the contract with Beyond Finance. They're not sure what it is now, but they think it's at least over $50,000. Anyway, we told them what we did, read them what we did, and they enrolled in helps, so they don't have to worry anymore. That's what we do. Yeah, if this is the problem you're having, call us on the phone. We'll go over your situation. Like this, a person I talked to later. You can stop the headaches. So let me see if there's some questions here. I saw one. So Turba, so it would be the title company that discovers the judgment on me upon the sale of my home Um, Usually you would know about a judgment because someone would have to knock on your door, serve you with papers normally, and they get a judgment. Okay. Now, if it was a judgment obtained a long time ago and you forgot about it, yeah, it would pop up on a title report. Okay. I think that answers your question. So, person contacts us from Florida. They're 66 and they get 1,600, a little bit more than 1,600 in Social Security. Sorry. My income is Social Security. I know you guys did a great job helping my brother. I just started getting a bunch of letters soliciting me as a client since they say I've been sued. I've not been served and my debts are not too many. I had to get credit cards to help with my medical bills. Okay. The reason she's get letters is that there's some bankruptcy attorneys that subscribe to a service that lets them know if someone's been sued, and they'll send an advertisement letter out trying to. Sometimes people will get two or three or even more letters from different attorneys in their area, and then sometimes they get it like this person did even before they've been served with legal papers. Don't need to worry. I mean, if this person contacts us, their Social Security is protected. We help their brother, so we a good reference. This person contacts us from Florida. I'm a 79-year-old widower. His wife died a little bit less than a year ago. My only source of income is Social Security, deposited directly into my checking account at Bank of America. I've outlived my retirement. I have no other source of income, and the only bank account I have is the checking account with Bank of America. I no longer own a car and do not own a home. Since my wife passed away and the loss of her Social Security payment, you see, if you're married and you both get Social Security, when your spouse passes away, you get the higher of the two Social Securities. In this case, he kept his and his wife went away, and it was 40% of his income. I've become seriously delinquent on my credit cards. I have 10 accounts, 5 with Capital One. Capital One has agreed temporarily to accept reduced payments, which he can't afford anymore. He says, I'm aware that my Social Security payments are protected from garnishment, and my checking account at Bank of America is protected up to 2 months of the Social Security amount. Good for you. You know more than most attorneys do. Okay, you've been listening to me. Okay. I had advised all the credit card companies of my situation on numerous occasions. I only received an occasional phone call from the credit card companies and have not heard from anything from Resurgent Capital. My immediate concern is if I get sued, should I respond to the lawsuit knowing I owe the money, or just disregard the summons knowing my Social Security payments and bank account are judgment proof and let them get a default judgment against me? Sorry about the length of this message and awaiting your reply. Well, if you're sued and you owe the money, what would be the basis to contest the lawsuit? Okay, if you contest the lawsuit, you're going to go in there and they're going to ask, do you owe the money? And if you're going to say yes, then they're going to get a judgment. So there's not a difference between a default judgment where that's a judgment where you don't do anything and they get a judgment, or a judgment where you go to court and the court judge says you owe the money. And by going into court, you just kind of embarrass yourself Because either way, your income is protected, they can't take it. And you got a pretty good grip on that. So when it helps when someone enrolls in helps, if they've been sued, we ask them to send us the lawsuit. We're going to send a letter to the attorney that sued you, letting him know that that you're on Social Security, you're not going to pay it. We're going to call you, explain to you why you don't need to worry. Is that really the time? I started 2 minutes late today, so I may go 2 minutes longer. I have been disabled since 2017 and am having trouble with 2 credit cards from Tennessee. Don't need to pay them. Get them to us. Person from Arkansas. I'm a single mom. I have 2 little boys, and I'm pregnant right now with my third. I've been in and out of the hospital, missing out on work. So, we help people that are on Social Security, pension, disability, or VA benefits. We'll talk to someone else, and we'll talk to this person and see if we can't give them some guidance. So this person contacts us, and I'll conclude with this. I need help with my house taxes. So Ohio offers a homestead exemption program that provides property tax reduction for qualifying seniors, permanently disabled individuals, and surviving spouses. This program works by shielding a portion of the house market from taxation. Okay, with about 5 exceptions, every state has a program to help with property taxes for seniors that are lower income or poor. Okay? There's 5 exceptions, but most states do. And all you have to do is, Google or search the name of your state, property tax protection or exemption for seniors with lower income. And those websites should prop up and tell you what's available. They do it in different ways. Okay? Okay. So it's been an hour. I want to appreciate you participating. Let's see if there's any questions I forgot to deal with. I don't think so. Weren't a lot of questions today, which is fine. Please press the like button. And also, there's our phone number. You can always call us. If you have a comment, put it in the comment page. Always look at the comments and try to address them. And call us 855-435-7787 if you have a question. And I will talk to you tomorrow. God bless and have a wonderful day.